I brought you a video the other day where I talk about the establishment. The way I see the establishment is made up of a couple of different articles or items. You have government. Within government, you have Labour, you have Conservative, and all the machinery behind it. And then outside of the House of Commons, Parliament, you have the mainstream media. The mainstream media, their apparent job is to influence the populace, make us believe what government and the overall engine of government wants us to believe. The mainstream media's job is to influence us into believing that. Long gone are the days where they just report the news. They literally are a propaganda machine, and that's becoming ever more apparent as the days go by. And we've been heavily critical about that, particularly on this channel. If you agree with my assessment of, well, the basics of the establishment, please subscribe. If we look at the upcoming elections, we've got the mayor election in May for London, the London mayor elections. And at some point in the not too distant future, there will be a general election also. Are they worried about the results of these elections? Are they worried that they could be in for a shock? Are they worried they could lose their seats? Well, of course they are. You have this first past the post system. But the message quickly gets out there that if you vote for Reform, you'll get Labour. If you vote for another party, you'll get Labour. The whole idea is the Conservatives using the mainstream media to try and influence our behaviour. Now, if we look at the by-elections in Wellingborough and Rochdale, there was roughly 60% of the electorate in both cases stayed at home. They didn't come out. Now, that, to me, stinks disenfranchisement. You got to look at it with elections, general elections. You're not voting for who you want to put in number 10. You're voting for the MP who's going to represent you locally. So, in effect, they're like little by-elections all over the country, all happening at once. And the person with the most votes gets the title of MP for that particular area. But we need people to come out, and we need people to make the difference. These 60% that are disappearing, we need a higher turnout than that in something that matters so much. I referred to the mainstream media. I saw this. Poll of the day: should Reform UK step aside to give the Tories a better chance at the election? Your verdict. Now, what the mainstream media is doing here is they're planting a seed of thought in everybody's head. Because as I told you in my previous video, and I refer back to the days of the Brexit Party, that is exactly what happened. The Brexit Party stood down a great number of prospective parliamentary candidates in return for getting the Tories in to get Brexit done, as Boris said. Well, Brexit was never done, or at best, it's Brino, Brexit in name only. So we were all royally screwed. Now, there are counter-arguments in the media to that post I just showed you. Anne Widdecombe, Richard Tice, Nigel Farage. There will be no deals. Reform will not step aside. Reform will not stand down. Tories have had the chance and they've blown it. I had a very lengthy conversation last night with my contact within the Reform Party, and told me some home truths, because I said, I have my doubts about certain things. While I believe a reformation is very much required, there are certain doubts. And I'm reminded yet again of the job the mainstream media has with regard to influencing our opinions. Well, I thought myself I would try something. I put a poll out and said, do you think that Reform should stand aside for the Conservatives? And you can see the results here. A resounding 81% of you said no, and that was off of nearly 4,000 votes. Again, a small percentage, but a meaningful percentage. And, it's very encouraging to see that, because it means that people will not fall for the mainstream narrative. The mainstream are very much worried, I think, because unlike 30 or 40 years ago, where there was no internet, there was no social media, there was no YouTube, there was no Twitter, there was no Facebook or anything else, our picture of the outside world was very much controlled by everything we saw and everything we heard on the TV sets, wasn't it? And therefore they could influence us. But now, with the advent of all the things I've mentioned, we can see a hell of a lot more about a great many things, and we make our own minds up. My message to the disenfranchised, all those that think, what's the point? It won't change anything. Go do it. Get in that polling booth and do it. Because otherwise, this merry-go-round, this pile of shit that we've been experiencing for the last 2 or 3 generations, isn't ever going to change. And there's some things I can tell you, some inside information I have about some legal goings on here and there and everywhere, which tells me very much that it's us against the system. People power is what will rule the day at the end of the day. And we have to allow a situation where that could happen. And we need to see the mainstream media for what it is. It's an arm or a tool of them to try and influence us. Let me know if you agree. Let me, read your comments. Perhaps we'll have a readout. Please hit the like button on this because it helps spread it. Please also subscribe to the channel if you haven't done so already, and share the hell out of my stuff on your social media. Here's another video for you. It's just popped up on the screen.